Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Gewurtz. Welcome to my virtual day Medrash. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Shloshim of Rav Dovid Winiarz, the Facebook Rebbe. The purpose of tonight's event is not to mourn the passing or the loss, but to celebrate the life and the gain that we all had from knowing this amazing individual. Over the next hour or so, we will hear from speakers, family, friends, people who he touched, and their feelings and their words will resonate with so many of us as having been the same experiences that we shared. Thank you for coming. May tonight be a night of inspiration for all of us.
Posting before Achsania, we open up as Chazal teach us with the honor of the gathered. In this case, that's Facebook, the Facebook group. It's really a privilege to see the depth of which my brother Dovid Avraham ben Rechik Haas influenced people. A lot has been said. I was thinking whenever Jonathan Gurwitz asked me to say a few words, what should I say? I was thinking Divrei Hesped first. Then I said, a lot's been said between everyone over time, friends, family, themselves. And the truth is we're at a juncture. We're at Shloshim. Shloshim is a transitional period. Of the five stages of Avelus, Aninus, first half of Shiva, second half of Shiva, Shloshim, and the Shana for children. It's really a juncture that separates Avelus from life. Children are the only ones who are available for an entire year. Not for now. That's not for now. Everyone else, all other Balaam, Allah for 30 days. So the Shloshim really ends the Avelis for David's mother, for me, my brothers, my sister, for David's wife, though she's in Avelis from her mother also, but that's a different story. I was thinking, what is our role here? We're at a point where I see a lot of comments on Facebook and elsewhere about how difficult it is. And yes, it's difficult. On one hand, we're missing a person who was so critically involved in our lives in one way or another, whether it be as a friend, Facebook friend, family member, a relative, or just an acquaintance. David somehow impacted the life of so many people. And the truth is, one thing I saw really impacted me was something that Chaim Saperstein, I believe it was, shared. He shared on the tribute page on Facebook, A.B. Rottenberg's Conversation in the Womb. A wonderful parable for life. How life is really transcends our perception, and it's really a gateway, Prose door, as Chazal tells us, the next word. But that's not. I have over here one of the few smiling cards that Mrs. Rachel Eisenberg, a friend of the family from Staten Island, put together. Beautiful cards. I wanted to tell you of a couple experiences that I've had giving them out. First experience, post office worker looks at it, says to me, "Why should I keep smiling?" I answered to her, "Why not?" Laughed, made her smile. Okay. No. But then another one, thought was nice, very nice, keep smiling. Oh, well, nish here, nish there. But one experience really struck me. A coworker of mine, the day I gave it to him, when I gave it to him, I'd just come back from a funeral. Funeral was of a friend. My coworker was in his mid-40s, non-Jew. His friend had died of lung cancer. And he was a little down. And when I gave him the card, he looked at it, and it reminded him of his mother's grave, on which it apparently is written, "Keep smiling." And this gave him a certain element of nechama, a certain element of comfort. And he was really appreciative for it. And I think it was this that Dovid understood. Dovid wanted us to know is that no matter how small, we can always make a difference in someone's life. So in regards to how we move forward, Dovid's there, Dovid is there, Dovid always will be there, wanting the best for us. And we'll remember that. We have to move forward doing the best we can with Dovid. And remember Dovid for what Dovid wanted us to do, wanted us what Dovid taught, emulating his truthful lessons, smiling, chesed, happiness, L'chaim, and through that we can truthfully bring a Alin Neshama, and we can get on with life. The L'chaim that we'll have from knowing that we're doing that which will make David proud, will help bring Hashem the Shef Lekenu, the Herib Yameinu, and we should see him soon. The Herib Yameinu, Amen.
Hello, my name is Ben-Sion Klatsko. I was privileged to count myself among Dovid Winiarz's many friends. He was a friend, a rabbi, a mentor, a teacher, a visionary. He was everything that I think we all want to be. Somebody who cared, and he did it l'shem shamayim. He just loved every single yid. And I think that when we speak about Dovid Winiarz, we're talking about somebody who made his livelihood the tafel, made it wasn't that important. It wasn't his primary concern. It was Torah. It was living a Jewish life and spreading Judaism. The Gemara in Eruvin says that Hanifter mechavero al yiftar el mitoch tvar halacha. Shemitoch kach zochreu. And it means the following: if a person has to leave their friend, they shouldn't leave except through words of halacha. In this method, they will remember their friend. So we stop and think, the Gemara is saying, if you have to leave your friend, then make sure that you exchange words of halacha, words of Torah. That way you're going to remember that friend even though you have parted ways. Now, you stop and think, why is the Gemara giving us advice about how to remember friends? Is it a special thing? Is it a holy concept to remember one's friend? So let's let's take apart those words of the Gemara, and we can see something very deep that can be applied to Reb Dovid. Hanifter mechavero al yiftar el mitoch tvar halacha. If one has to leave their friend, they should not leave except through words of halacha. So the very first words, if one has to leave, one should not leave except through halacha, tells us that one should not be leaving friends. It's not a good thing to part ways with someone who has touched your life, someone who has bettered you by getting to know them. Ha-niftar, if you have to leave your friend, then al yiftar el mitoch tvar halacha. Don't leave except through halacha. So ha-niftar al yiftar means you shouldn't be leaving your friends. And I think it's that makes our parting ways from Shamayim to Aretz, where Reb Dovid sits next to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the Kisei HaKavod. This is what makes it so painful, because we were forced to part ways against our will. Haniftar al yiftar, because when somebody is dear to you, they should not leave. You shouldn't allow them to leave. Unfortunately, we had no choice. Al yiftar el mitoch tvar halacha. You shouldn't leave except through words of Torah, words of halacha, because in that way you will remember them. There have been many people who have died before Reb Dovid, and even many since. Some have been in the news. Some did not make the headlines. Many faded into oblivion. They went quietly into their long sleep, and nobody is going to remember them. No one's making a Shloshim memorial for them. And the reason why is in these words of Chazal. When you part ways through words of Torah, then as you live your life, as you live a life of Torah, kihem chayenu va'orach yomenu, as you live that kind of a life, you will remember, oh, I'm going to daven with extra kavanah because my friend told me how important davening is. I'm going to have extra simcha in my mitzvah. I'm going to be there for the next person. I'm not going to be judgmental. I'm going to be humble, even though I know what I'm doing is quite important. These lessons are the lessons that allow a person to live forever. The reason that I'm making this video is because this video is just one in a long line of memorials that have been made and that will continue to be made about a person who made sure that we were nifter, that we left through Divrei Torah. That was his legacy. All those who saw his Facebook posting, the very last one was him learning Torah with his children, with simcha, transmitting Torah's Chaim, the Torah of life. What a memory for one's children. What a lesson for you and I. If you have to leave, and even if you don't want to leave, if you end up leaving, it should be through words of Torah, words of sweetness, words of eternity. There's a lot to say about Dovid. We love Dovid as a person. We loved him for being a dreamer. He was the dreamer, and he took action with those dreams. We loved his humbleness, how he did things and nobody really knew what he was doing, and it was also quiet and hidden behind a keyboard very often. We loved the way he hugged us and kissed us when he met us face to face. We love hearing the stories that are coming out day by day, hour by hour. People that have had a close encounter with greatness and are telling it and retelling it, inspiring us to make those kind of friendships that are based on reality, that are based on Torah truths, that are based on simcha, that are based on Torah's Chaim. So we hope on this Shloshim, where the time of mourning is transitioning to a lesser time of mourning. Each time Shiva is a very strong time of mourning, and then Shloshim is a little bit less, and then the Toch Shana is a little bit less. And we transition, and each time we transition, we wonder, okay, am I ready to transition? Are we ready to give up some of the sadness that we had? And the answer is only if we could transpose, if we could replace that sadness with meaning and purpose. So this video and all of these videos that you're watching are appropriate, they're apropos, they're here to teach us great lessons. It's not about sadness. He would not want us to be sad. He would say, this is what Hashem wanted. But now go do great things, make friendships that are based on Torah, and in that way, each of us will create a memory in our circle, in our friends, that Be'ezus Hashem will allow them to grow and remember us even after 120 years. His name and his memory should be a blessing to his family, to his friends, and to all of Klal Yisrael.
I can't recall exactly when I first met Dovid Winiarz. He invited me onto his radio show. I think he interviewed me 3 times, maybe 4 times there. We hit it off immediately. He came to my house, we schmoozed. There was just a chemistry. It was special. And it's a funny thing because, and this is maybe because I'm Scottish, or maybe because I just don't have good character traits, but I'm a wee bit suspicious of people. And when you meet somebody for the first time, you wonder what's their real agenda, what they really like. Anybody can say words, but what's in the heart? I can honestly tell you that having known this man for far too short a time, I had enough time to know that there was nothing except 100% sincerity in everything he did and everything he tried to do. I just couldn't find one bad character trait, and that's a bit unusual. You know, when I looked at Dovid's site, the Facebook Rebbe, I see that he's got over 13,000 likes or friends or hits or whatever the word is. It's actually 13,281 in case you're doing research. And if you know anything about Facebook, and I've got a Facebook page myself, you have lots of friends. I've got 4,500 friends, most of whom I've never met. And then people like me or like something I've done, and I don't really know what that means. But in the case of the Facebook Rebbe, Dovid Winiarz, friends meant friends. He really, honestly, sincerely was concerned about 13,281 people who watched and became his friends on Facebook. He liked them, and he really liked them, and he spent so much time with them. And you know, it's a strange thing. So many people phone me up with questions. Why are you phoning me? New York is full of rabbis. But the sort of rabbis who somehow or other are able to make time and engage with people to the extent they feel that he likes me and he's my friend. That's very rare. There aren't really too many of them about. You know, Dovid put something in his Facebook page, and I happened to read it just preparing this little video. And it was something about his family. I'll read it to you in just a second. I'd never met his family until I went to the Shiva. When I got to the Shiva, one of his sons called me over to sit in front of them. I didn't know him, but he knew me. He told me his daddy loved me. And when I spoke to his wife the first time I met her, it was sadly at the Shiva. She called me to speak to her, and she told me all the stories that Dovid had told her about me. And even though I didn't know them, well, they knew me through Dovid. Because I'd become his friend, and he was interested and keen to see me succeed in all the projects that I'm involved in and was involved in. They told me that he followed me, and I was so proud when I spoke somewhere or I achieved something. It was as though it was one of his sons, or one of his brothers, father, I mean, family, friends. He liked me, and I liked him. His loss is beyond tragic. And I've printed this out from his Facebook page. I'll be travelling Motzei Shabbos Saturday night with the encouragement of my wife and children to a convention in Baltimore. Incidentally, I'm not sure how many people would want to put the spotlight on the fact that he can only do what he can do, or he only could do what he did because of his wife and children. But of course, Dovid immediately thought of that. If I'm delayed in replying to messages, please bear with me. Well, I kind of think that those of us who've lost a friend can be absolutely sure that up there, and he's certainly up there, he will be looking after his friends down here. He'll be sending Facebook messages to the Beis Shalala saying, one of my friends is a bit depressed, or one of my friends has just lost his job, or one of my friends is struggling financially, or looking for a shidduch, or the marriage isn't good. Can you help? I simply never met a nicer, kinder, or more special man than Dovid. And for those of us who were his friends, the loss is enormous. But one important thing, he's there for us, up there, just as he was down here. And I think we have to be there for him as well and for his family. And all the goodness that he brought out in all of us, we've got to cherish that and grow that as a thank you to the man who wanted his friends to be liked, to experience his love and his concern. He liked us. All 13,281.
Hi, my name's Penina Taylor, and I'm honored to be able to speak to you this evening about Rabbi Dovid Winiarz. Rabbi Dovid and I became friends several years ago when he first got on Facebook, and I was relatively new to Facebook. I had gotten an account because I saw Facebook as an ideal platform to reach out to Jewish people who might not otherwise have access to Judaism. As a speaker and kiruv worker, I saw it as an opportunity that I just couldn't miss. And so I had gotten on Facebook, and one day I received a friend request from somebody who was calling themselves the Facebooker Rebbe. And I was wondering who this person could possibly be. Maybe he wasn't even Jewish. He probably wasn't a rabbi. Why would somebody use a name like that? And so I messaged him and I asked him about himself. And as he began to tell me about why he had gotten on Facebook and why he was calling himself the Facebooker Rebbe, I began to see that this was a very special soul. And in fact, we had a lot in common about our views about Judaism and how to reach out to Jewish people, and that Judaism needs to be brought to them as something full of joy, meaningful, relevant. And so we became friends. And as time went on, I came and I spoke at his shul, and he helped me with different projects and things like that. And in fact, one day, a couple of years ago, he interviewed me for his Kiruv Connection project. And during the interview, we were talking about Jews and Judaism and never giving up and education and a variety of different topics. And people remarked afterwards that it was kind of weird that we were so at ease with each other. But as I gave that some more thought, I realized that that's just because that's who Rabbi Dovid was. Rabbi Dovid was somebody who saw every single Jew as a special person. He cared about every Jewish person that he came in contact with. In fact, I believe he probably cared about every single person, regardless of whether or not they were Jewish. But every single person that he ever met felt like and knew that he cared about them and valued them as a Jew. And so when Rabbi Dovid passed away, and I was totally shocked when, as most people were, when Rabbi Klasko posted the announcement that he had been in this terrible accident, I realized that suddenly, all of a sudden, we were seeing all of these people who were saying that they considered Rabbi Dovid a close personal friend. And I was like, how can one person have 24,000 close personal friends? Clearly, in order to do that, he couldn't even be a tzaddik. He had to be an angel or something, because there's no way on earth that one person could make 24,000 people feel like they were special. And he had a way of doing that. He cared deeply about every individual. And now we see that in his passing, which has left a hole in so many people's hearts, the amazing chesed that is going on in his memory, in his name, the legacy that he started, just being himself, has turned into practically a worldwide movement. But that was the kind of person that Rabbi Dovid was. He cared deeply about every individual, and he inspired the rest of us to rise above where we're at, to rise above who we are. And now, unfortunately, in his passing, we have been chosen to carry on his work. And many of us have asked ourselves, why? Why did he have to be taken now? Why have so many holy people gone to Shemayim this year, been taken away from us this year? And I started to think about that as people were asking these questions, and I realized, besides the fact that there really is no good answer as to why Hashem takes away people from us, I realized, though, that even though it's not an answer, it's an interesting thing, because when Hashem takes these people from us, it leaves space for the rest of us to rise up to the occasion, to step up to the plate, and to carry on in the holy works that these people were doing. And this tribute page that we've all been participating on is just another example of that. How many people have taken on chesed? How many people have chosen to do more mitzvot in honor of and in memory of this incredible man? There are actually no words to be said, really no words that one could say to even begin to describe who Rabbi Dovid was, what he inspired, how he made us feel. All I can say is that I pray that the movement that has begun as a result of the work that he did and inspired in the rest of us sparks whatever needs to be sparked, that we would merit the coming of the Mashiach and the final redemption.
How do you put into words the effect that someone has on your life when it's profound? How do you put into words the many different ways that one person changes the lives of the people around him or her? How do you put into words what it means to have someone who was a friend, a parent, a spouse, a Rebbe? There's a Gemara in Sota, the very last words of the Masechta, that discuss the passing of Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, who codified the Mishnah. It says, Mishemes Rebbe, when Rebbe died, Batla Anova V'yiras Chet, gone, lost forever, were humility and fear of sin. The Gemara says, Amalei Rabbi Yosef Latana. Rabbi Yosef said to the scribe who was writing this down, Lo tisni anava, do not say humility is gone. Ti'ikana, for I am here. As Rashi says, Shani Amdason, I am one who is humble. Amalei Rav Nachman Latana. Rav Nachman then spoke to the scribe, Lo tisni yiras chet, do not say fear of sin is gone. Ti'ikana, for I am here. This seems very strange. First of all, why, in giving the praise of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, would these people get up and say, well, not so fast. I'm still here. Marsha asked this question, and he says they were involved in truth. They wanted the Brisa to be correct. Don't say that when Rebbe died, it was gone, because I'm still here. It still seems unusual that they would sing their own praises, but we'll come back to that in a moment. We've heard tonight some of the things about Reb Dovid. We heard how he cared about making people smile. We heard about being a friend, his devotion to Judaism, to Torah, to relationships with Hashem and with his fellow man. And there were some things we didn't discuss tonight. His amazing time management. The fact that over the course of this past month, we found out so many different things that Dovid did. In addition to his online persona and his answering questions and guiding people, be they Jewish or non-Jewish, Noahides, his involvement in the community and the business guild, a complete man of the world who lived with the mission of Torah, that everything he did was a facet of his avodas Hashem and the service of God. I heard from a friend of Dovid's, Dov Herman, that Dovid didn't live 49 years. He lived 120 years. He just collapsed that time into 49 and compressed all the activity. We say if our brains function at 10%, that's a lot. Well, Dovid used his time much more than most of us do. We've heard about the chesed that he did, or we haven't. Things that he did under the radar, not wanting to be noted, not wanting to get credit for it, just making sure that people had what they need financially, emotionally, spiritually. He was on a mission. He truly felt Hashem's pain in having his children far away from him, and he sought to do whatever he could to bring them to him. He tried to give people a sense of their own heritage and their destiny, what they could have. He tried to be a friend to everyone. When those people in the Gemara said, don't say the humility is gone because I'm still here, and don't say the fear of sin is gone because I'm still here, I'd like to suggest that they, like all of us here tonight, were experiencing a hesped, a eulogy, a discussion of the fine points of Rebbe Yehuda Hanassi, and they were inspired. They said, if Rebbe felt that humility was something to work on, I'm going to take that upon myself, and I'm going to be involved in humility. Rav Nachman said, Rebbe felt that Yiras Chet was important. I can't do everything that he did, but I'm going to work on Yiras Chet and fear of sin. In that way, they said, don't say Rebbe is gone, because the impact that he has made is still here as we, who are left behind and who remember what he stood for, will carry on his legacy. In looking for an email from Dovid recently, I found an old email he had sent me. It was a discussion of people's perceptions of what a Messiah might or might not be, God's son might or might not be, and he discussed in the letter the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, who brought us the Torah from Har Sinai, his grave is unknown. It's unmarked. And the way Dovid explained it was that the who of Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't important. It was the what. We will never replace Dovid Winiarz, Dovid Avraham Melchia Kahas. But the who isn't as important as the what he stood for, what he ingrained in all of us, how he made us feel. The people who influence us the most are the people who believe in us. And Dovid believed in every single one of us. And we should too. We are made to be great. That is imbued in us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we go forward tonight, and we think about the memories that we all have of Dovid, and we think about the words that we've heard tonight, let us say, don't say that midah, that chesed is lost, because I'm here and I'm going to carry on. Yehi Zichro Baruch. As David would say to all of us, stay great.
Hail, Malei Rachamim, Shavoi Chavim B'Ameroimim, Hametzei Menucha Nechoinam, Kanefei HaShechina B'malos Kidoi Shemot Ha'erim Kizoyad Rakia Mazirim Es Nishemois Rebbe Dovid Avraham ben Chiyakas Bavur Shachavidim Oisim Chesed Bad Haskaras Nishmasai Began Eden Tehawai Menuchasai Lachem Balo Rachamim Yastirim B'sei Sekinafav Le'olamim V'yitzerai B'tzerai Rachayim Esh Nishmasai Adonai Onachalasai V'yanucha b'shalayim Al mishkevay Seihem V'novoimar